the regularly scheduled RCS school board meeting. Would everybody like to please stand, make the appropriate move, and help us recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we make sure that we are recording?
We are. I turned it on.
Thank you.
We are recording?
Yes.
Okay, did everybody hear me recite the pledge okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All righty, this moves us to item number 1 on our agenda is the call to order. Just to remind all the board members that each board member who is participating in the meeting must announce how they are participating, whether it's via in person or via remote. Hannah, if you would mind, please take the roll call, please.
Andy Graham,
Here, remote.
John Brotherton,
Here, remote.
Bill Sweat,
Here, remote.
Mark Keys, Joan Fitzgerald, Joe Robinson,
Here, remote.
Sandra Ulott.
Attending remotely.
Thank you very much. There is a quorum of the board members participating at the meeting. Therefore, we can have this meeting, and just please let the minutes reflect that a quorum is present. In addition to the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, we are also required to keep verbatim records of open meeting by recording it and making it open and available to the public under all provisions of the OMA, Open Meetings Act. This is occurring now as the meeting is being recorded. Later, there will be a link posted to our website through YouTube. And finally, all votes must be conducted by a roll call since we're all attending remote on each issue and can be identified and recorded. We'll move on to item number 2. It's an action item. It's the agenda approval. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda as presented? Notice there's 3 changes for the agenda that's proposed. The first change is to remove items 16 and 17. It's dealing with closed session. Removing item 12A, which is RCSEA and RCS updated hard to fill. I'd like to have that removed. And then number 13, the updated head licensed school nurse job description to be removed. If everybody has a chance to agree on the agenda, to review the agenda and agree with the proposed changes, then would someone care to like to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the 3 changes as stated.
Okay, the motion was made by Ms. Ulott. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Graham. And we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Graham,
Aye, sorry, I'm mute.
Ulott,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Fitzgerald, sorry, Keys, sorry, Robinson,
Aye.
and Sweat.
Aye. Okay, that makes it unanimous. That motion carries and the agenda is approved as amended. This moves us on to item number 3, which is public comments. For public comments, there are a couple of ways that you guys can, that the person can make public comments. One, they can email it to us 2 hours before the scheduled board meeting and start time, and the board member will read your comments during the section. Or number 2, you can email 2 hours before the scheduled board meeting, state your name and your phone number, and if you wish for us to call us, and we will call you via the phone, so then you can make your announcements made during the public forum. For right now, we only have one. It's an email. And it says, hello, my name is Grant Kelly, and I'm a father of a third grade student at Northview. 2 months ago, as I watched the board meeting, I listened to a comment that made, and it sounded like the district wasted 4 months of planning, and we were doing a great disservice to the students of Rantoul. I realized at that moment that you probably are not thanked near enough for the work that all you do. I would like to express my appreciation for the efforts RCS Board of Education, administration, faculty, and staff have put forth to keep the students of Rantoul safe during these uncertain times. I am thankful for the work that teachers have put into preparing for remote learning. I am thankful for many employees who are always happy and full of energy as I pick up our weekly lunches. I am thankful for the administration who has been incredibly transparent and continue to base decisions off of science, even when they are tough and not popular. Thank you, RCS, for all that you do. And it's signed by Grant Kelly. Anybody want any comments about that, board? If not, then we'll move on to item number 4. It's the consent agenda item. The items that are going to be presented in consent agenda are board meeting minutes for October 15th, open and closed session minutes. B, bills and the treasurer's report. C, donations. We had one donation from the Rantoul Rotary Grant for $1,000 for RCS for PPE. The second one was from Walmart and Rantoul in Champaign, provided pallets of school supplies. And 3, Isaac and Jenna Musgrave, $1,000 donation to Northview for students and staff needs. The Musgraves have stated, it has never been easy to teach children in the best of circumstances, much less during a worldwide pandemic. We want every child to have an equal opportunity to learn and want to equip teachers with the resources they need in order to best meet the students' children's needs. As part of this community, we understand the difficulties faced by many families. It is our hope that this donation will help alleviate some of the burden and stress that has been placed on our communities, kids, families, and schools. Having a child attend Northview Elementary has given us insight into the staff of Northview, and we are appreciative of their compassion for the kids, their responsiveness to the parents, and their ability to adapt to changes. We are certain that donating to Northview Elementary is an investment in our community. If everybody has reviewed the consent agenda items and agree with everything, then would someone care to make the motion?
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda, including ratification of bills prepaid by the finance manager.
Okay, the motion.
450.
Okay, the motion was made by Joe Robinson. Anyone care to second?
I'll second that.
And seconded by Ms. Ulott, and we'll need a roll call vote.
Ulott,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. And that motion carries, and the consent agenda items have been approved. And if you don't mind, I'd just like to say to the Musgraves, thank you very much for your donation to the school. I'm certain Northview will find good use for it. All right, we can skip item number 5 because nothing was removed from the consent agenda. So this brings us item number 6, which is Hispanic Heritage Month. And the presentation is by Patricia Valente, the academic coordinator for bilingual and ESL programming. And she's created an 8-minute video presentation. Are we ready for it?
Yeah. So Patricia, do you want to go ahead and unmute?
Yes.
I
Good
haven't.
evening. It's been an honor to be able to work at RCS for the past 3 years. Very excited about what is going on in the bilingual program. Hispanic Heritage Month, as you know, is in September to October 15th. And a lot of our teachers are from different Hispanic countries, our students. So bilingual teachers created units of study that integrated culture and authentic experiences with literacy and social studies. And this is kind of an example of a flavoring of the different activities that we did. There are great things happening in RCS, even in the midst of a pandemic. So there is a point, there's Spanish, you're gonna see Spanish, a lot of Spanish, and English. One of our kindergarten teachers, Miss Torres, will give a delicious conversation about Puerto Rico and how proud she is to be from Puerto Rico, the food, the music, and she's very expressive. But it's all in Spanish. But what she's saying is how excited she is that she's Puerto Rican and that she gets to share this with her students. So I hope you enjoy the presentation. I hope it just kind of inspires you to see what great things are happening in Rantoul. Thank you.
And before I play it, I'll say that I did play around today with the YouTube ability to translate from Spanish to English. And we've decided not to run with the Spanish translation subtitles. So we're gonna show the video here that Patricia put together. So thanks, Patricia. But she's gonna stick around till the end to answer any questions you might have after the video. Sorry.
Hoy yo me siento feliz al regresar a mis vidas. Esta tierra bendecida por el suspiro de Dios. Arropada por el sol, bañada por bellos mares. El aroma del café, que aquí no hay quien me saque. Me siento feliz, que aquí no me voy. No quiero morir, soy como el coquí. Las bondades de la tierra, junto con los manjares, donde siembran ilusiones, patria y bandera en tus calles. La alegría de tu mente, bohemios y soñadores, allí donde bailan todos, pero que me alegran como señores y me siento feliz, que aquí no me voy, yo quiero.
Mi nombre es la señora Keila Torres García y soy maestra de kindergarten bilingüe en la escuela Islon en Rantoul, Illinois. Pero yo soy de Puerto Rico, así que estamos celebrando la herencia hispana y yo estoy muy orgullosa de ser puertorriqueña. Me encanta mi isla, Puerto Rico, la isla del Cordero. Y de ahí pertenezco yo, donde están las playas y la comida rica. Me encanta el mofongo, me encanta el arroz con gandules, el pernil, los pasteles, las alcapurrias, los rellenos de papa. Me encanta todo lo que es puertorriqueño. Me encanta la música y también me encanta ser parte de una cultura rica en todo el sentido de la palabra. Así que yo soy puertorriqueña y celebro mi herencia hispana.
Los manjares, donde siembran ilusiones, patria y bandera en tus calles. La alegría de tu mente, bohemios y soñadores, allí donde bailan todos, pero que me alegran como señores y me siento feliz, que aquí no me voy, yo quiero morir, soy como el coquí. Soy igualito que el coquí, y si me sacan de aquí mi corazón no me palpita. No me voy, me quedo aquí en mi islita. Que yo tengo tatuado en mi alma la patria y un orgullo que no se me quita. Me quedo aquí en mi islita. Me quedo con el sol, me quedo con el calorcito, me quedo bajo la sombra de una palmita. que me quedo aquí en mi cita. No, de aquí no me voy, que yo me voy a quedar en mi isla bonita. Esta es mi isla del encanto, y aquí sí se quiere mi cita. Soy igualito que el coquí, y si me sacan de aquí mi corazón no me palpita. De aquí no me voy, me quedo aquí.
Sorry about that. I jumped to the end there.
Y si me sacan de aquí mi corazón no me palpita. De aquí no me voy, me quedo aquí en mi isla. Que yo tengo tatuado en mi alma la patria y un orgullo que no se me quita. De aquí no me voy, me quedo aquí en mi isla. Me quedo con el sol, me quedo con el calorcito, me quedo bajo la sombra de una palmita. De aquí no me voy, te digo que me quedo aquí en mi isla. No, de aquí no me voy, que yo me voy a quedar en mi isla bonita. Esta es mi isla del encanto, y aquí sí se pasa sabroso, papá. Gracias, mi bonita, mi isla bendecida, aquí es muy chiquita, es grande de corazón, cada vez que la visita, le brindamos su atención, es la perla de los mares, y como se nota en la patronal del compay. Un paraíso de la dulzura, vamos a bailar salsa de la dura. La isla la queremos tanto, desde mi bonita y bella. Te pido que nos unamos, vamos a luchar por ella. Y no hay quien me saque de aquí. Hoy yo me siento feliz al regresar a mis vidas. Esta tierra bendecida por el suspiro.
All right. Thank you. I apologize. I've never tried to show a video while hosting a meeting at the same time, so I accidentally cut it off a couple times. Do any of the board members have any questions for Patricia or for me, I guess?
Any board members have any questions? If not, I just do have one comment. I really enjoyed the video, except for it's so close to dinner time and they started showing all of that food.
I know.
I almost started salivating at the mouth there, but no, I really enjoyed the video.
Thanks.
Do you know how many varieties of Hispanic countries are represented in RCS? Honduras, Salvador, Puerto Rico, Mexico, second and first generation. It's amazing the richness of culture we have at RCS. And I appreciate you as a board supporting that growth and being able to bring in teachers that are from the community. Most of those teachers are RCS, are Rantoul. They live here, they breathe here, they do the work here, and that's exciting because they know our community and really bring that diversity and cultural responsiveness that we need in our schools. So thank you for supporting that.
Thank you for all the work that you do. We appreciate it.
Oh, love it, love it.
Anybody else have any comments? If not, thank you very much, Patricia. And then we'll move on to item number 7. Item number 7 is the reopening plan updates. And Ms. Ramage will be doing that presentation.
All right, while we're getting it set up and before we dive in, I'd like to make just an overall general statement that you've probably heard us state before. We do feel our children and staff are safe at schools. Our protocols are probably the best around. But when cases increase, as they have locally in Rantoul, and when we believe that not all students are able to be tested when they are close contacts or symptomatic, then there are reasons for us to not feel as safe. So CEU PhD, our health department, has a view of COVID that we at the village or school level do not have. It's also important to note that in all situations but one, the main reason why we have had to close a building for 14 days has not been due to close contact. We do not have situations where we've sent home 50, 100, 200 students and staff due to close contact. So that means we do our protocols well. Our staff do a great job. We use every available resource that we have, including our teaching assistants, as the state now allows us to have some of those positions help out in classrooms. And if a teacher has to be teaching remotely, then a teaching assistant can oversee or supervise the in-person students. We don't have a lot of those extra type positions. We're not a district big enough to have hall monitors or cafeteria supervisors who could maybe fill some of those roles. So the TAs that we have, they're closely connected to the students that they serve in the classroom. So very, very few TAs that we have can really be pulled to help with that process. So we're ready to begin in a minute when I can see the PowerPoint come up. Lastly, as you are aware, CU PhD strongly recommends full remote until January 5th. On Tuesday, you may not know this, but our Illinois State Board of Education superintendent told districts to make changes for the time between Thanksgiving week and Christmas week, and even possibly into January as the state experiences a rise in cases. Next screen, please. This is just some general updates of what we've been doing since the last board meeting. On a case-by-case basis, some blended Academy 504 students moved from 2 days a week to 4 days a week. Meal distribution is pretty steady, about 4,500 meals a week. Please come on Monday. We have some special meals for Thanksgiving and the distribution for our 2 days of school next week. Pre-K Learn students, we were working on a PM program for them. Of course, that's on hold right now. Enrollment has been adjusted to actual. So our actual enrollment is 1674 rather than 1686. This is an important number. It's used on our fall housing report, our school report card, etc. And the last one I haven't talked a whole lot about, but we are very excited to announce that we are the only district, along with the Ready Alternative program in Champaign, to be working with our health department for rapid COVID testing. Lots of hoops to jump through, so it will take a little bit of time, but we should be set for whenever we return to in-person learning for the rapid tests for COVID. Next screen. This, many of the rest of these slides have a lot of data and survey results. All of these surveys were done before, long before the health department's full remote recommendations. So you have to keep that in mind. These were done about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I also will not be reading all of the details that you see on the screen, but I will instead summarize or pick out some main points. This PowerPoint will be available on our website under board documents after tonight if anybody wants to review the data. So the staff COVID cases, as of the 18th, we have 30 of those, 30 positive cases. I heard a statistic from the health department late last week that told from Julie Pride, and she said that 62 school staff in the county tested positive, 62. At that point, we had 27. Now, not all 27 of our staff live in Champaign County, but a large bulk of them do. So just try to put all that together. This means about half of the 62 cases were at RCS. Of the 300 employees, we have a total of 858 work days where staff were not on campus. Most of those days, the teachers did work remotely, so these are not absences, but they were days they were not on campus and that we had to find other staff to cover and supervise the students in person. A side note to that, I am involved in all situations in which employees are home for COVID reasons. I have been repeatedly impressed at how fast our staff worked at getting back to in-person teaching. It's a true mark of the most dedicated staff. Next slide. As of November 18th, we have 28 positive student cases. Of the 842 blended students on campus, they have missed a total of approximately 3,100 days. Notice that we are less than halfway through November. We have doubled the total number of cases in October, and we are at 16. I listed the specifics about testing data. This was obtained from students that we knew were absent due to symptoms and quarantine. It shows that less than 1/3 of our students were tested. Next slide. The first of 3 items we have before the board for approval tonight is the rest of second quarter recommendation. Again, the health department strongly recommends full remote until January 5th, which is currently our scheduled student return date from winter break. Staff return on the 4th. As stated earlier, we have recommendations from our ISB superintendent as well. So we are recommending full remote until January 19th to allow for 2 weeks after New Year's, another holiday that we know groups of people gather. So this is a question to you, board. Do you want to stop and discuss each of these as we go through the 3 items that you'll have to approve? Or do you want to look at more surveys and talk about third quarter and discuss second and third quarter together at the end?
Well, board, what do you
Process.
think? You want to talk each one at a time or wait for the entire presentation and then go back and then revisit?
Whatever's easiest for everybody else. but
I'm
I'll go
okay
first.
with waiting and covering it all at once.
Okay, that's 2. Anybody else?
We can wait
Jill?
and cover it. We can wait and cover it all.
Okay.
Okay, all righty.
All right, moving along, third quarter recommendations. So before we knew about the health department, we conducted the move to full remote, we conducted these surveys with staff and parents about second semester. We have changed the wording to from second semester to third quarter because we will be taking it 1 quarter at a time. Next slide. Very important for everybody to understand, all of this was collected 3 to 4 weeks ago. For staff, the question was, if RCS does not continue to maintain 6 feet social distancing, I would, and there were choices. 51% would continue working. 46% would not, would either obtain a medical exemption, leave of absence, or leave RCS immediately. Note that we do know that these don't total 100% because that they could choose more than one option, so it wasn't going to total 100%. Next slide. Our parent survey, of which 212 were submitted, were also completed 3 to 4 weeks ago. 6 different possible plans or options were provided that you see there. A Likert scale was used for each question for parents to choose from strongly agree to strongly disagree. The results on the PowerPoint don't include those that chose the middle option, which was neutral. So for, I pulled out 3 of these. Full remote, 48% strongly disagreed with fully remote as parents, 36% strongly agreed. Maintain our current hybrid plan that we were doing up until we went full remote. 63% agreed or strongly agreed with that plan. All students returning to blended if they were 6 feet apart, 52% agreed or strongly agreed with that. Next slide. The staff survey, same thing, 6 options. I pulled out the 3 highest. Full remote, 36% strongly disagree and 42 strongly agree. Maintaining our current hybrid plan, 73% agree or strongly agree. And all students returning to blended if we maintain 6 feet social distancing, 46% agreed or strongly agreed. Next slide. Another question on the survey was, what plan would you choose for your child? The top choice, parents, current hybrid plan as is was 35% with full remote next at 27%. For staff, it was kind of flipped, full remote at 37% with current hybrid plan at 26%. We also know from talking with staff and administration and the association that in the past 2 weeks, staff have really begun to feel uneasy about the increase in cases. So if we had done this survey again, with parents and with staff, it probably would look a little different. Next slide. Of the 6 plan choices, we pulled 3 just to summarize some pros and cons. The first one is if Learn Academy students return to blended in-person learning and only if 6 feet social distancing was maintained. Some pros were most classrooms are currently not at capacity, so we can accommodate more students in classrooms while still maintaining the 11 to 12 students in a class. We are fully aware of the increased stress on parents and families when students are working remotely. So this would allow for the highest number of students for in-person learning while maintaining social distancing and lessen the amount of parents and students who are struggling. Another pro is that parents and staff feel safe because we are following protocols. For cons, if all Learn students return to blended in person, which is highly unlikely that all of the Learn students would return, there are a few classrooms that would exceed capacity. We don't think that that will be a problem, but it's a possibility. There is also a concern that possibly there won't be 6 feet on buses either, but the rides for regular ed routes are shorter than 15 minutes, so we would still be following protocol. Next slide. The second option or plan is to maintain the current hybrid plan as is, that would be not allowing Learn students to return to blended in-person learning. This one was chosen as the highest by staff. Pros, lower number of people in a building means more people feel safe because it's just easier to follow protocol. Very few to no close contacts when there is a positive case. Cons, our classrooms for in-person learning, again, are not at capacity. We'd also like to follow through with the original reopening plan that stated that we would allow Learn students to have the option to return. And we know students and families are struggling with full remote and want in-person learning. The third and final, next screen, the third and final option is full remote. Pros include slowing the spread of COVID, more consistency and stability since there's no last minute notice to families that we have to move to full remote. And teachers can concentrate on one group of students rather than 3 to 4 groups. So our teachers have A-day students, B-day students, everyday students, and remote students. So our staff have stated that student engagement was much higher when we went to full remote. Con, we know some families struggle with internet due to internet availability based on the location of their home. And again, most believe in-person learning is better. We want to share the voice of our teachers that was and is loud and clear. When we had schools move to full remote for 14 days, we did quick surveys with the teachers, and almost all stated that teaching was much easier. Keeping track of those 3 to 4 groups I mentioned in this strange way of teaching is extremely difficult and overwhelming and exhausting. It is much easier in regards to instruction, planning, and communication for both students and the teachers to teach to just one group. We have planned for the possibility of full remote since this summer. This style of instruction, the devices and hotspots have been in hands since the beginning. We have been ready for this. It is the reason that instruction was set up this way, so there are very smooth transitions each time we had to close a building. There was no scrambling to hand out devices or hotspots. There was no scrambling to change how we instruct. It was already in place each time we moved to full remote. And you should be extremely proud of what everyone has accomplished. Next slide. So these are the 3-quarter plan choices. We recommend that what we had in our original reopening plan, which was to allow learn students to have an opportunity to return to blended in-person learning as long as there's the 6 feet social distancing. So at this time, board, do you want to discuss 2nd and 3rd quarter options, or do you want me just to continue to the last few slides on board metrics?
You can go on with board metrics as
Okay.
far as I'm
We'll
concerned.
keep going. So
I think it's fun.
let me keep going. I mean, you did say in the beginning you wanted me to keep
Sure.
going, but these are 2 different topics, 2 very different topics. Okay.
So board wants to keep going on. Sorry, I couldn't get myself unmuted.
Okay, we'll just keep going.
Okay.
So this is the board metrics. It's a completely different topic. These are the current board approved metrics from way back before we knew anything about how this was going to work or how it was going to look. Very briefly, if the teacher was positive, both A and B day classes went remote for 14 days. If 2 students in 1 classroom were positive, A and B day classes both went to remote for 14 days. And if 3 students in 2 different grade levels were positive, the whole building went remote for 14 days. Next slide. This was also on our survey. As you can see from the survey results, we have one extreme to the other as suggestions for metrics. An example of what some suggested, some said 1 positive case in the building would result in the whole building moving to remote. That would have meant that pretty much all year we would have been in full remote, or at least more in and out than we've already had, which we've had a lot of in and out lately. Others feel that we should only follow the health department guidelines. The only metrics from the health department is in regards to an outbreak. And the definition of an outbreak means 5 people, students or staff, in a classroom. And we've never hit that mark. We've not been even close to that. Next slide, please. So what we've provided tonight is more detailed metrics, which really mirror what we have been following in every single situation except once near the beginning of the school year. I won't read all of these in detail, but I will give a summary of each one with the understanding that there is a reason that there is descriptive language. So the 2 on this slide are if there is 1 student with social distancing, only close contacts quarantine. 1 student without social distancing, only close contacts quarantine, but the number of those could end up including the whole class. Next slide. 2 active cases in 1 room, students or adults, regardless of 6 feet, mean moved to full remote for 14 days. 3 active cases in 1 school, and it affects more than 1 room, 1 classroom, 1 room, students and adults, regardless of 6 feet, 14 days remote. Next slide. 1 classroom staff case, regardless of 6 feet, 14 days remote. 1 staff that is non-classroom based staff. So that would be like a secretary or custodian, only close contacts quarantine. And next slide. Multiple staff cases of non-classroom based staff, still only close contacts quarantine, but those numbers are included in the total active cases for one of the options that we mentioned previously on the metrics. And last one, high rate of student or staff absences due to single symptom exclusion guidelines. It is possible that the rate of students or staff absences would merit a short-term move to remote. And that's a situation that we've been in most often. We just ran out of staff. So next slide. Here is the summary of the 3 decisions tonight that the board needs to make. And that's the end of my presentation. So time for discussion.
Before we go into any discussion, does anybody have any questions for the superintendent, or would you prefer asking the questions based on each topic we discussed?
I have something on the previous slide.
Okay.
You've got return on January 18th.
Oh, it's
It
19th.
should be the 19th.
Yes.
I picked up on that right away.
The 18th is a holiday, actually.
Holiday, right.
Right? Okay. Yeah, 19th.
Okay.
Good catch. Thanks.
So, board ready for any discussion?
Ready when you are, Bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy, if you'd like to start first.
If nobody else wants to, I will. So I've
Okay.
been pretty steady on my thoughts on this, and the CDC came out with a report today that said students are safer in school. Michelle's repeatedly said that kids are safer in school. The kids that need to be in school the most are the ones that we've been trying to target for the last several years to increase their test scores, increase their academics. Those are the ones that we're missing. Those are ones that we're struggling. Those are ones that our staff is struggling to reach out to get onto Zoom. And taking this pause right now, I can agree with because the cases are high. But staying out till the 19th, I don't agree with. I'd like to see us maybe try again for a couple weeks in December, because around the holidays, it's really tough on a lot of our students and families. And the kids and the teachers really enjoy that time together around the holidays. And if the cases are slowing down by then, by like December 7th, I was thinking, I'd like to try again. And I really would like to try as soon as the holidays are over. I don't like being out till January 19th. I think that's too long for our kids. I think we're going to lose some more that we're already having. And also on the metrics, I appreciate Michelle putting all these metrics together. And it seems pretty clear cut that we're following CUPHD's guidelines on almost all of them. And I would say we don't necessarily need all the metrics. We can go on CUPHD's guidelines. Like I said from the very beginning, the health department is going to shut us down, or that last slide, we're going to run out of staff, or we're going to have a high rate of absences, and Michelle's going to make that decision to shut down anyways. We've shut down a couple schools already, not because of we hit our already pre-approved board metrics. It's because we ran out of staff, or we had a high rate of students being gone. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, the reason why the metrics has changed, because the administration has been getting some feedback from some of the teachers that they just really don't feel that safe, because our original metrics did not address all of the possible different issues that were occurring. So that's why they came up with the with this updated metrics to try to accommodate those those teachers that and staff who had their concerns, to make certain that we are addressing those.
Okay, I'd like to say something.
Mm-hmm. Go for it, Sandra.
Well, I get what Andy's saying. I really do. And there are kids that really benefit more from in class. My concern is, as things continue to rise, like I watched the national news tonight and they said one of the airlines, I don't remember which one, it doesn't matter, said a lot of people were canceling their travel plans for Thanksgiving. But as fast as people were canceling, other people were jumping on the opportunity to take their spots. So I think there's still going to be a lot of people not staying home for the holidays. And I mean, I have concerns. My kids want to come over from Missouri. I told them they have to get tested first. It petrifies me. I'm concerned that if families do get together, and we go back to school, say the first week of December, that we're just going to see cases pick up again in our schools. And I think it's harder on the students and the parents and the staff to bounce back and forth between we're in school these 4 or 5 days. Oops, wait a minute, we've got to shut the school down. We're going to be remote for 2 weeks. Oh, wait, then we can come back for 3 days and then we're off again. I think our staff needs to have a plan. I'm also concerned about teachers that are saying if they don't feel safe at school. I haven't heard any of ours say it, but that if teachers don't feel safe at school, they're thinking about changing their careers. I don't want us to lose teachers because they don't feel safe enough. So I'm okay with waiting till the 19th, because hopefully that will give everyone a chance that did choose to spend time with their families to either have not had symptoms or, for people to be in a better healthy mode than they might be otherwise. I just think it's harder to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I think this is what we can do to keep. I do think our kids, for the most part, are safer at school, but I'm afraid that all of their families aren't going to make wise choices over the holidays. I think it's easier on our staff, and in the long run, it's easier if they aren't bouncing back and forth between remote and in school and remote and in school. That's just my feelings.
And I will remind everybody, one thing I didn't say is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but we haven't had one case of spread at our schools. They're bringing it in from the outside. So, I mean, what we're doing at school is working. Our staff is not getting sick from kids coming in. Our staff's not getting sick from each other. They're getting sick. Staff and students are getting sick because of what choices they're making outside of school. So we haven't been spreading in school.
So and we're coming. I don't have proof of that. I think the concern that we have is that only about less than a third of our students who we know of that are symptomatic or close contacts are getting tested. So we don't know that. If everybody was getting tested, and the access to testing here is hard. They have to find a way to get to Champaign. So that's a big reason why I want to bring the testing to our school. But that just takes time. And that only works in some situations as well. That rapid testing is not the same test. So I don't have proof. So far, we do not believe that it has spread in school, but I don't know about the 2/3 of students that didn't even go get tested. And did they spread that? I don't know. I don't really have a good handle on that.
And then again, they're going to be, I apologize for being late.
That's right.
So if I say something that I've missed, I apologize. But they are going to be home. They're going to be home for Thanksgiving. People are going to get together. People are going to get together at Christmas. Mm-hmm. And, to Andy's point, they're bringing in from the outside. And this is what worries me as well. I don't want to be back and forth and back and forth and back and forth either. And, when does our semester end, Michelle? Did you guys mention that?
We did not. So it's right at the very first day of January, or you can say it's the last day before break in December. So it ends nicely with break.
Okay. I do like the idea of 2 weeks after the first, after everybody's been home. And it gives anybody that has gone and done something and been out and been with family, been with something, that's their 2 weeks right there, to find out if anything is spread. That part means a lot to me, I think. And like I said, I just don't want us to go back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks for your comments. Anybody else have anything to say?
I would say,
Joe?
I agree
Joe?
with the 2 week break after the first. Again, people are going to get together, so it gives you a chance to recover, or it also gives you a chance to show if there's any issues. The other thing that I think would be good is with remote learning. During this time that, we're completely remote, is consistent between all the students, and also it makes getting the learnings to the students a little bit more consistent, easier on the teachers too. So,
Okay. All right, Joe. Anybody else care? Joan?
I agree with what Joe just said. First of all, I think that we do need that 2 week break after the holidays, just to have that safe zone. And second, the parents can plan for it. So if we're going to be all remote, they can plan for it. They know it's going to happen. The hardest thing is to all of a sudden the next day you're remote and you got to scramble to get everything together and know what you're supposed to do. So I think if they know this is our plan and we're doing it for everybody's safety, because we can't say where these COVID cases are coming from. Nobody knows. I mean, it hit my family and we are so ultra careful. But one of us got COVID. We're all quarantined. We have to do the whole 9 yards. And it's difficult, very difficult. So I think as a parent, I would rather know, okay, we're going to break for Christmas. We're not going back till the 19th. And so they're going to do online school for a couple of weeks. I can prepare for that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joan. Anybody else care to make comment? Okay, so it looks like the overall consensus is that we break until the 19th of January, correct? That seems the overall consensus. Okay, so that's number one. So what about the second item? Anyone care to comment on that? The third quarter recommendation.
Ms. Fitzgerald, looked like you were saying something, but you were muted.
You're muted, Joe. There you go.
I'm having internet issues here. I can't see the next slide. If I could get a quick look at it again.
Hey, Scott, would you mind putting up your slide?
Thank you.
So the next one will be the third quarter. The RCS recommendations are is item number 2. Admin recommends the original plan to give option for Learn Academy to return to blended academy, or keep hybrid plan as is and not allow Learn to return to blended, or remain in full remote.
Thank you.
Anyone have any comments? Well, if you guys don't mind me saying, based on the surveys, it looks as if the majority of the votes based on the survey was to kind of keep things as they were. Maintain the current hybrid plan.
My goal is pretty simple at all times, guys, to get to as many kids in the classroom as quick as we can.
I'll clarify. I think the recommendation from admin is that Mr. Graham, is to the parents who right now who chose remote for first semester. They'll have the option to come back starting second semester, assuming we have space for 6-foot social distancing.
Yes, thank you.
I agree.
So is that item B and number 2B, where it says keep the hybrid plan as is? No. That's A.
A.
That's A,
It's the first one.
the first one.
What we
Okay.
original plan, which was to allow the Learn Academy students to have a chance to return in person to
Okay.
blended.
I think we have to offer that.
It's
I
what we
really
said at
do.
the beginning.
Okay,
And to Andy, that gets kids that weren't in class, they can go back now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's what I'd like to see.
any other board members have any
I
thoughts
would,
on this?
I would agree with A.
You'd also agree with A? Okay,
Hey,
A. Okay. All righty. So then, if there isn't any more discussion on that one, then we'll move to number 3, which is the board metrics. What do you guys think? You want to keep it as is, or approve the ones with the approved recommendations that was presented tonight? Do we want to create our own, or don't have any metrics?
I'm for the new defined metrics as presented.
So that's number B.
agreed.
Okay,
Mhm.
number B.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
So the overall consensus then is for number 1, we have A. Number 2, we have A. And for number 3, we go with option B. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So then, if we don't have any more discussion, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the reopening school plan?
I will make a motion to approve the reopening school plan changes for the following 3 items. For second quarter, return to in-person learning, January 19th. For the third quarter, Learn students are given an option to return to blended only if we maintain the 6-foot distancing. And for the board metrics, that we adopt the newly defined metrics that were presented this evening.
Okay. So we have a motion made.
All of that contingent
There you go.
upon further IPDH or the governor mandates.
Okay, the motion was made by Ms. Ulott. Thank you for reading all that, Sandra. Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Ms. Fitzgerald. And we will need a roll call vote, please.
Ulott,
Aye.
Graham,
No.
Keys,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Unmute, Joan.
Aye.
and Sweat.
Aye. And if I'm correct, that's 6 in favor, one's against it, so, or one's opposed. So that means we have a majority. So therefore, the motion has been approved. All righty, that moves us on to item number 8, which is an action item. It's the annual report for the Rantoul City Schools, and it'll be presented by Dr. Woods as principal at JW Ader and the bilingual director. Dr. Woods, you're up.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to do a very brief presentation. I do want to share and make sure that the board is aware that the annual report, and you should be able to see this document, is a 186-page document altogether. And the bulk of the information that really is for us to look at is in the first 20 pages. I'm not going over every single part of this. I'm just going to present more of the summary. And then if and whatever board questions come up, I'll go to the respective screens and portions of this presentation. All right, so you guys can see the PowerPoint now, right?
Yes, everybody see it?
Yep, okay. And for members of the public, that document that I shared will be posted after the board meeting if it's not already posted. So the purpose of the annual report is to share school district information related to students, staff, and finances in an organized way that is readable and understandable to the public. All of the information included in this report is already available in other state reports, which are also typically presented at different times throughout the school year. One of the things we chose to do this year, and we will, assuming the board is good with it, we will continue to do something like this, and that is to look at those areas of students, staff, and finances and compare us to other districts. For the sake of this, and I explain it in the larger document, we have two groups of districts that we are comparing ourselves to for this annual report. One is demographically similar districts, and the other is geographically near districts. And the other thing we're doing is we're only looking at K-8 districts. And why would we do that? K-8 districts, compared to a K-12 district, it's very difficult to actually compare any of the financials or staff information because they are structured differently. And finances are different in those districts. And likewise, it's not reasonable to compare a K-8 district to a high school district because it's really apples to oranges if you're making those comparisons. So what we did is we took the entire state of Illinois and pulled out all of the K-8 districts that are not in Chicagoland. And then we looked for the districts that were relatively large, had high rates of diversity, meaning high rates of non-white students, and high rates of low-income students. And so the 5 most comparable districts are Carbondale, East Moline, Mount Vernon, Streeter, and Bell Valley. And you can see where those are on the map. For the geographically near, we just took the K-8 districts within 30 miles of Rantoul. And I would imagine our board knows each one of those districts and where they are on the map. It's interesting to note that we are significantly different from the school districts that are geographically near to us. They are small and they're not very diverse. Well, we'll just leave it at that. It's in the report. Our students. So when we look at our students, no other K-8 district in downstate Illinois has the level of diversity and the broad range of academic programs and needs as Rantoul City Schools. We're the largest, most diverse downstate K-8 district. Not only are we racially diverse in that we have high proportions of both Hispanic and Black African-American students and white students, but we also have high proportions of English learners and students with disabilities. None of our comparable districts had high rates of students in all of these groups like we do. Add to this our district's high rate of students from low-income households and our community's high student mobility rate, and there really is no other district that looks like Rantoul. Our staff has grown over the past several years, but we continue to struggle with retention. The district has addressed retention through decreasing average class sizes and increasing salary. As we have increased staff, class size has remained relatively small, but stable as a result of coinciding increase in student enrollment. So yes, we've increased staff, we've decreased class size, but up until this year, we were also seeing a pretty steady increase in enrollment. Teachers' salaries continue to be lower than comparable districts, and there is a direct relationship between teacher retention rates and average salary among our comparable districts. While we have increased the diversity of our teaching staff, the district's teaching staff still is not reflective of our student population. Finances. The district's financial standing has been stable, but there are growing concerns related to the financial strength as a result of COVID-19 and the failure of the state to pass a fair tax, which would have resulted in continued funding to meet adequacy targets. Our district relies heavily on state and federal funding sources and there's a limit on the costs that we can expect our local taxpayers to assume. RCS has by far the lowest equalized assessed value, and so that means the value of taxable property. We have the lowest equalized assessed value per pupil and the second highest tax rate of our comparable districts. This means that with relatively low property values, increasing the local school tax rate yields limited new revenue. Utilizing the state's evidence-based funding formula and adequacy targets, RCS is significantly underfunded in order to meet the needs of all of our students, and that is according to the state. Summary, so where do we go from here? I think all of us know where we want to go, but in general, we've got to determine how we can best meet the needs of our exceptionally diverse students and how we make RCS a school district our teachers and staff see as a long-term commitment. And we have to do that within the boundaries of the limited resources that we have. So with that, I'm sure all of the board members studied the annual report in advance. And what questions do you have for me and Michelle, and maybe just ask a question to Allison Didier just for fun.
Any board members have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, Joe.
That's how our teachers don't reflect the students that we have in the system. What are the plans to increase the diversity in the schools?
Okay. Well, the plans are right. When you look at the data in the report, you can see that, for instance, we've significantly increased, we've increased the number of our Latino and Hispanic teachers. And that's directly related to the increase in the bilingual program, and that 2 years ago, the board made a decision to move in a direction of a dual language program. So that's one way to do it. We are, I would say, and I'll talk about this in the next agenda item, but the social equity working group, right away, that was one of our topics, so the topics that they generated is what do we need to do? So I don't have any answers what we are doing right now. That's on the agenda. I think it's going to get more developed and brought back to the board as far as things that we need to do, particularly with recruiting African-American staff members. Do you want to follow up with that, Mr. Robinson?
Thank you for answering it for me.
Are you finished, Joe? Because it looked
yeah,
like you
I said,
okay.
I didn't know if you heard me. I said yes. I'm finished. Thanks for answering that question for me.
All right. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Thanks, Scott, for putting that together, and whoever else helped assist with that, Michelle and Allison and everybody else. Are we doing any testing this year? Have state come out and said, are they going to do testing in March, or do they waive that again for this year?
All of the testing is happening. And the state at this point has, and I guess that Michelle unmuted, I should have let you answer. So for instance, the access test, which is one that we have to give for our bilingual students, it's supposed to begin in January. And the state is already saying we cannot administer the test remotely. We must bring all kids in to do the tests. And that's going to carry through with the IAR, the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, but that's not scheduled to begin until, I believe, March. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know we've talked about there's a possibility there's a change in the federal administration, that there could be some changes because the requirement for the IAR is a federal requirement. And
last spring, did we take any tests before we went out? I cannot remember. Did we take any tests, and did we send those off to get scored at all?
Yeah, so we have the access scores, which is for the bilingual kids. Those were finished before we shut down. But if you look in the appendices on the annual report, the 2020 Illinois school report card is in there. And they went ahead and printed a lot of blank pages because there is no data.
That's where I was getting to.
Yeah, so in throughout the report, like for instance, when I did the comparable districts, I was pulling in the 2019 Illinois school report card data. So there was no data. We had a handful of kids actually in private placements that tested, but it wasn't enough to give us a score, and the state didn't put those scores out anyway for any districts.
Well, I know that state didn't put them out, but I didn't know if our admin staff had received any feedback from the state on where our kids were at.
No.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Going.
I raised my hand, but with my virtual background, my hand disappeared. I just want to say, yes, thank you to, this was a group effort putting all of this together with the district admin team. But I want to also let the board know, please let me and Mrs. Ramage know if there are things you would like to see addressed in the annual report that are not there. And then we can start to build that year after year. So what this should look like next year is should be a very similar format, the same districts, and then we would have year-to-year data starting to show up in those comparables. So that was it. And I'm done now. Oh, Ms. Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I'm unmuting myself. I wish there were some way that we just didn't look at a base score, but we could look without the children's names and look at growth. Child A scored this last year, but this year. Is there a huge growth, or are we losing in the growth area?
No, we are not losing in the growth area. That is strangely not reported on the school report card. But if you recall, when we did our school improvement plan presentations last year, one of the metrics the state uses now to determine that overall rating of commendable or I can't remember what they all are, is that growth is a variable in it. Yes. So we're a district where we can gain a lot by showing the growth, and our kids are growing. And I also know that Jenny Frericks can share with you the ECRA data that we use. ECRA is the dashboard that we have, and that actually generates an individual student growth score. So we see lots of individual student growth. Yes.
And you know, that's important. And it's important for our teachers. It's important for our students. It's important for our families to see that horrible score we get every year is horrible, but it doesn't really say what we're doing. It just says, here's the score. And what we're doing is showing what we need to see is the growth in the children, and see, okay, we're showing the growth. The children are growing as much as they're supposed to. That's just my own pet peeve about those scores.
Yeah, and I agree, Joan. And our community needs to understand everything isn't about what you do see on those report cards. It's what you don't see that really is impacting our kids. And that's what I wish some of our community members could understand, that black and white document isn't everything, that our kids are improving. And I wish people could understand that and know that and believe that.
Well, one thing I think we're trying to show in that annual report is there's a lot of different metrics, and so what I'm hearing is maybe we need to bring in some other academic performance metrics to show how we're doing. But, you know, it's also, like I said, like Mr. Robinson asked, a very important metric for me is, what does our staff look like compared to our kids? And when I look at the percentage of non-white staff in our district, are we better or worse than districts that look like us? And those are all important questions to ask. So
I'm guessing, Scott, that we'll probably look worse, and a lot of that's got to do with the salary that we offer.
Yeah. It is, if I can pull it up here. You can't see my screen at the moment, can you?
No.
You're not sharing it.
Yep.
as he's looking for that, so we have presented to the board, and we need to do that again, the ECRA dashboard that Jenny has presented and the principals have presented on, and it shows the green, you can see the levels of the growth, and that's what Joan was talking about, and we probably need to do that again. We will only have local data, not our state assessment data on there. And of course, we were closed down since last March, so it's not complete. But if we can at least talk about it and show you again, show the community again, especially now that we're Zoom and more people can access, participate in our meetings. I think that might be a good next step. Scott, go ahead.
Right. So in the report, when you get in there, you can see that, this chart shows where the movement is, what movement we've had. The biggest change is purple, and that is the increase in our Latino staff over the course of really just the last couple of years. But then when you get into comparables, so interesting, so percent of non-white teachers among our comparable districts. So we're right in the middle. RCS is 11.8% non-white. Surprisingly, Thomasboro has a higher percentage of non-white students than we do, as does Ludlow. But again, in those districts, one teacher can make a big difference. What I'd like to see is, what I think our admin team has to do is RCS has to say, what is Carbondale and East Moline, what are they doing different? Because they look like us in terms of enrollment and student population. They look like us, and they're double almost the rate of non-white teachers in those districts. And then there's a lot of things. I'm going to point one out. Just you can also see here on teacher salary. Well, one difference is of our comparable districts, there's 11 in here when you count Rantoul. We are number 9. Carbondale and East Moline are number 1 and number 2 in salary. So, I mean, those are all things we have to look at and try to measure, how do you start to change some of these things? So I'm going to stop sharing. What other questions are there?
Any other questions? If not, then Scott, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you for all your hard work preparing the report, you and your team. And then we're now ready for the board. If the board doesn't have any more questions or comments, we're ready for someone to make a motion to approve the annual report as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the RCS annual report as presented.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Ms. Ulott, seconded by Mr. Brotherton, correct?
Yes.
All right, then we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Keys,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Unmute, Joan.
I say that all day to the kids. I,
Robinson,
Aye.
Ulott,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. And that's unanimous. Motion carries, and the annual report has been approved.
And can I just add very quickly, thank you very much to Dr. Woods. The bulk of that report was all his. So the layout, the pulling the data, the whole report. So yes, a few other people may have contributed minorly, but it was all Dr. Woods. So I want to thank him very much.
All right, so noted. So this moves us on to number 9. Item number 9, it's social equity working group updates. Dr. Woods again, you're up.
Well, thank you. And I'm just the person who brings the update. I'm really happy that the social equity working group is not being led by me. I'm facilitating it. Let me jump into my little prepared comments here. The Social Equity Working Group is having some exciting, positive conversations about how to move our district forward around issues of equity. At this point, the full group has met twice with more than 20 participants at each meeting. We are working through issues of equity in RCS through 5 topics: academic achievement, discipline practices, personnel hiring practices, parent leadership and community relations, and cultural competency / humility. So we've got 5 kind of subgroups that are talking through those. Initially we had 6 groups, but parent leadership and community relations have combined. Additionally, 2 members of the group have stepped up to co-chair with Mrs. Kreider. The co-chairs are Mrs. Dolores Lloyd, who is a teacher at Pleasant Acres, and Mr. Ryan O'Connor, parent. For the December board meeting, we anticipate that the co-chairs will present a more detailed update and may be prepared to bring some action items to the board. I'll also point out, this is public now. We do have a we have a website that is where we are posting the agendas and notes from each of our meetings so that it's open and people can see what we're doing. I don't think anyone has clicked on it yet, but it's there. All right. And that's all I had for my update from the Social Equity Working Group.
Any board member have any comments or questions regarding what Mr. Woods just presented? If not, then Dr. Woods, thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So this moves us on to item number 10. It's the 2020 tentative tax levy, and it's going to be presented by Kendra Good.
All right. Now this is, just so everybody knows, this is Kendra pre-recorded it. So I'm going to hit the next slide and it should play through, but Kendra is here for you to answer questions at the end.
Okay.
Oops. Now hopefully I can start it. All right. Oop. There we go.
Good evening. This is the 2020 tentative tax levy presentation. These are the tax levy terms we will be using in this presentation. The tax levy is the amount of money a school district requests to be raised for property taxes. The extension is the amount of money the district receives from the property tax. The CPI measures the change in cost of living. The EAV is the assessed value of all taxable real estate in the district. This is the history of CPI for the last 8 years. This year, the CPI went up 0.4%. What happens if the levy is set too low? Lost money forgone in the first year, and it compounds every year after. We can never catch up. Each annual increase is limited by PTIL, CPI. Each year's limiting rate under PTIL begins with the prior year's actual tax. Why increase the levy greater than CPI? New construction for the first year is not under the tax cap PTIL. Districts should increase levy requests to capture all new construction property. County clerk information is an estimate. Districts only receive amount of dollars allowed under the tax cap for existing EAV property tax pool. Should always levy more than expected for any unforeseen increases in EAV and new construction potential new dollars. This is what happened last year. One of the options for the board to consider was an increase of 7.63%. We would have chosen this option, we would have received $131,000 more. This year, we have $131,000 in tax appeals. We are always at risk for potential pension reform and property tax freezes. Our levy is due in December. The final numbers are not provided by the county until March. We have based our levy on the estimated new construction amount. We should always estimate high to capture all possible EAB dollars when levy needs to be submitted. Our EAB has only increased by 1.56% over the last 20 years. Last year, we saw a large increase due to TIF 1 coming off. This year, we do show an increase of 4.86%. We are looking forward to more possible growth with the new sports complex coming in. Currently, we have 3 TIFs, and they are listed here. Over the past 2 years, our tax rate has decreased by 0.7654. This is good news for the taxpayer. This is the likely versus actual levy comparison. As you can see from this slide, our estimates have been pretty close to actual from year to year, except last year. This shows the difference from what we estimated in December to the actual tax extension in April. Last year, the difference was larger due to TIF 1 coming off and the board approving the 4.99% option. If the 7.63 increase was chosen, we would have received $131,000 more in tax dollars. This is why we recommend a higher tax levy rate in December, because the final EAB numbers aren't available at the time we have to submit the levy. These are the 2 proposals for the tax levy. PTEL limits the amount of increase in taxes from year to year to the lesser of 5% or the prior year's CPI at 2.3%. As discussed in the last slide, limitation, PTEL, does not apply to new construction and allows taxing bodies to recoup their fair share of tax revenue for that property. Abatements for bonds are not paid by the taxpayer. The bond payments are made with 1% sales tax dollars. Bond payments are approximately $1.1 million next year. We started providing transportation services to all pre-K students 2 years ago, and our costs have increased approximately $200,000 a year in the transportation fund. Option 1 shows an increase of 6.09%. Total amount of new dollars would be $317,000. The tax rate would be 4.2534, an increase of 0.0492, and a possible increase of $16 for the taxpayer on a $100,000 home. Option 2 shows the increase of 4.99%. The total amount of new dollars would be $260,000. The tax rate would be 4.2092, an increase of 0.0057 in the tax rate, and a possible $2 for the taxpayer of a $100,000 home. This is our likely levy based on CPI. We base the likely levy on the estimated EAB in new construction provided by the county. This would be an increase in new dollars of $128,000. The tax levy amount would be 2.46%. This is a decrease in our tax rate by 0.0574 and a decrease of $19 on a $100,000 home. In summary, our current adequacy target is 61%. The state did not distribute tier funding this year. This is approximately $657,000 less than last year. Our transportation costs have increased due to pre-K, and we do not meet the minimum fund balance recommended by ISB in this fund. Our salary and benefit costs are always rising. This is why we consistently request the funding levels necessary to provide a high quality services for our students. At this point is where the board should discuss and decide what the tax levy should be to prepare for the final levy in December. We must prepare for a hearing notice if it is over a 5% increase.
Is that the end of the presentation?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any board members have any questions, comments, or see Joan?
Yes. I feel like we made a big mistake last year. I feel like if in Rantoul you own one of the few $100,000 homes in the town, you can pay $16 more. We want to hire diversity in teachers. We're not paying enough to bring anybody in. So we got to do what we got to do. And that's ask for the most. It's not going to kill anybody in town. We're talking less than $15 for anybody. And it might bring us in more diverse educators, which is what we want, what we're looking for. If we can offer them a decent salary. End of my discussion.
Well, I have something to say.
Okay.
After last year's fiasco, and I'll say that's what it was, I recommend that we go with the 6.09 because everything isn't, we don't know. We think we know what we might get. We think we might know, the levy, but there is no guarantee. And it is always better to ask for more than you may get than to leave it sitting on the table, not just this year, but compounded every year after that. So I am in favor of 6.09.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation and your work, Kendra.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any comments? Questions? Andy?
I'm just unmute myself.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions regarding the presentation? Any questions for Kendra?
I agree with Joan. We can't leave that money on the table.
Okay. Okay, Mark? Anyone else?
I didn't thank Kendra. Thank you, Kendra. Good job.
Absolutely.
If nobody else has any comments, questions, or concerns, then would someone care to make the motion?
I don't have my agenda in front of me because of my internet issues. So I can't make the motion because I can't read what it says.
I make the motion to approve the 2020 tentative tax levy as presented.
I second.
We have to say which one. You prefer the proposed 2020 tax levy option 1, the 6.09%?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion to approve the 2020 tentative tax levy option 1 at 6.09% was made by Mr. Keys. Anyone care to second?
I seconded.
Okay. Seconded by Sandra Ulott. And we'll need a roll call vote on this, please.
That was Joan that
Oh,
seconded.
I'm sorry. Please correct the minutes to reflect that Ms. Fitzgerald was the one who seconded.
Thank you. Roll call Fitzgerald,
Unmute.
Aye.
Graham,
No.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Ulott,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. And that gives us 6 in favor, 1 opposed. So that the majority carries. So therefore, the tentative levy has been approved.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
I think that motion was also supposed to direct the superintendent to post a notice for a tax levy hearing, wasn't it?
Yes, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
okay,
As in exchange, you said 6.09, so.
okay, all right.
We
So
have
you would
that.
have to do it because it's over 5. Okay.
Yep, got it. Thank you for checking.
I'm sorry for my bad eyes because I figured it was italicized, so that means I didn't have to read it. So, okay. So that motion carries. That moves us on to item number 11. It's an action item. It's a resolution authorizing and directing the sale or disposal of personal property in accordance with 105 ILCS 5/10-22-8. RCS continues to reduce materials in the schools, in our shed and classrooms no longer needed and that are typically damaged, has missing pieces or no longer needed. Requesting approval for a resolution authorizing and directing the sale or disposal of personal property is in accordance with the aforementioned statute, and it's listed in the resolution. So anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding this resolution? No board member has any comments, questions, or concerns?
Nope.
Okay, then if not, then would someone care to make the motion to approve the resolution?
I so move.
Okay, Ms. Ulot approved the motion to approve the resolution authorizing and directing the sale or disposal of personal property. Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Brotherton. We'll need a roll call vote, please.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. And it looks like that's unanimous. That motion carries. So therefore, the resolution has been approved. This moves us on to item number 12. It's an action item. So we'll start off with 12B since 12A was removed from the agenda. It's the RCE/RCS custodial work hours during full remote. This because the custodial staff will work 4 10-hour days during full remote. Someone will always be in the building Monday through Friday as they will stagger work days. Anybody have a question or comments or concerns regarding this memorandum, regarding this memorandum of understanding regarding custodial work hours? No questions, comments, concerns? Okay, then would someone care to make a motion to approve this MOU?
So moved.
Was that
Andy?
Andy? Okay. Mr. Graham made the motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for the custodial work hours during full remote. Would someone care to second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Brotherton. And we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Sorry, I was on mute. Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. And it looks like that's unanimous. That motion carries, so that memorandum of understanding has been approved. Okay, this moves us on to item number 14. It's an action item. It's the personnel report. Has board members had a chance to review the personnel report? And if they have any questions, comments, or concerns, which we can address during open session? If nobody has any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the personnel report, then would someone care to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Hold on, you got to read the whole thing, unfortunately, John.
Well, it's not in front of me.
All right, I'll make it. I'll make it then. A motion to approve the personnel report as submitted with the stipulation that each individual is required to comply with all requirements for new hires as indicated in the Illinois statutes and RCS board policy and procedure.
All righty. So Mr. Graham made the motion.
I'll
So then-
second.
All right, Mr. Brotherton made the second.
Thank
So
you,
we'll-
Andy.
So we'll need a roll call vote on that one, please.
Graham,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. And that's unanimous again. So the personnel report has been approved. Moves us on to item number 15, which is an action item. It's wage changes, special programs administrative assistant. They're recommending a wage increase to our current specials program administrative assistant starting December 1st, 2020. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns that they'd like to bring up at this time?
Rationale for the wage increase?
Sure. So you probably noticed slowly over the last year or two that we keep bringing to you individual positions, one or two at a time in central office, and we're updating the pay scales to make them comparable, a comparable pay. So that's what we've been doing slowly. So it's time to do, it was time for us to look at this position. So that's what we've done.
I noticed that on that list that we looked at earlier, our administration was the lowest paid.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And Michelle, our current pay rate for the position is how does that compare to similar districts, same positions?
So this will get us to that spot.
Okay, because right now we're grossly under.
Maybe not grossly, but we are under, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And that's also local.
Okay.
We compare to local too.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions, comments, any concerns? If not, then would someone care to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the wage increase for special programs administrative assistant as presented.
Okay. Motion was made by Mr. Keys. Anyone care to second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Fitzgerald. And we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Ulot,
Sandra,
Is she still there?
We lost.
Aye.
Oh,
wait, there,
Okay, there she is.
okay.
Keys,
aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. And that looks like it's unanimous, and that motion carries, so the wage increase has been approved. This moves us up to item number 16. It says board and superintendent comments. Michelle, Ms.
Yes.
Ramage, do you have some comments you'd like to make?
I would like to go first, sure.
Okay.
School Board Appreciation Day was November 15th, although I do not think that I can top the probably the best and most meaningful thanks that you just got tonight from a parent. It means way more than the statement that I'm going to read. So that was very timely to thank the board for all that they have done and to come directly from a parent. But I do have a short statement. This is the district's and community's opportunity to thank our local Board of Education for their commitment to provide local governance voice for our schools. So more than any other public officials, school board members must be tuned into the voices of their community. They have the most prized possessions in their hands, our children. When it comes to public service, school board members are some of the most selfless volunteers around. They are your coworkers, neighbors, parents, and everything in between. They are also the frontline advocates fighting for quality education opportunities for every child. And they serve without the expectation of a paycheck and a position where they act as guardians of the community's most precious resources, our children and our tax dollars, both of which you had a lot of input and decisions made tonight. Everyone understands that board members attend meetings, but those hours represent just a fraction of the actual time that you devote to the district. When we had extracurricular activities, you would attend extracurricular activities to support the schools, sometimes even participate in professional development when we've had that, or opening school day when we've had that. And then you attend your own professional development to learn to become better board members. So a lot of your sacrifices are overlooked, but your work is so important. So hands down, this has been the most challenging year for our board. No one has been through a pandemic. The amount of emails and communication this year has probably increased at least tenfold, if not more. It's a lot to keep up with. So the work of you directly impacts the school district, students and parents, but it touches the lives of nearly every resident in one way or another. So please join me in thanking them tonight. I really appreciate all that you have done and the support that you have been for our staff and administration. Thank you.
Anybody care to make any comments, questions?
Yes, Bill, I would. I have two comments. I just would like to make sure that everyone understands we all want the kids to come back as soon as possible, but we have to think of other issues too, like safety. And one a little more personal note, I'd like to express to Sandra our deepest sympathy at this time of her loss.
Don't make me cry.
Well, I didn't mean to, but at all, but you know, you've been in our prayers, you've been in our thoughts. And I think I can speak for the entire school board and everyone else. You know, Sandra, what a, you know, I can't put in words what you've gone through. So
thank you.
Certainly are in our prayers and our thoughts.
I appreciate that. It's been rough, but I'm thankful I have this to, I guess, give me purpose because I felt kind of lost.
Yeah.
We're here for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that so well, John. You know, Sandra, we've talked. We're all here for you.
Any other board member have any thing they'd like to bring up at this time?
I'll just bring it up since Michelle sent an email this year or this month. I know we just finished the election, but we have the local elections coming again, and I just wanted to let the board know. And I know we've had a couple board members tell us that they aren't running again next spring, but there are 4 that I know of, possibly 5 circulating petitions, and 4 out of those 5 have people that have kids that are in school or will be in school next year. So I just want to tell you that there are people going around town circulating petitions, because I heard from a couple board members that there was concern there wouldn't be enough people to run, but there are 4 people circulating petitions right now with the possibility of a 5th one.
Okay. All righty. Thank you for the comments. Anybody else have any other comments?
The delegates convention was Saturday, and I hope I voted the way that you guys would have wanted me to vote. It was real different. It was over in 35 minutes because we had 2 meetings. Well, they had a meeting the week I was in Pennsylvania, which I couldn't attend, and then one last week where everyone had an opportunity to discuss all the resolutions that were presented. And so there wasn't much discussion that went on Saturday. It was basically voting, but it was a real, it wasn't just a different year for all of us and a challenging year for us. It's been a challenging year for school boards across the country, you know, across the state. We have all had the same issues, and I'd like to thank my fellow board members for, you know, we've all sacrificed a lot, and it's probably going to get a little bit rougher before this all gets over with, and we just have to hang tough and keep doing what we're doing. I appreciate all of you. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? If not, then we're going to move on to item number 17. It's an information item. First thing is the annual immunization and eye exam as of the 15th to the 20th, and it's comparable to the previous years. The vision exam 16% compliance. Last year, we're 46%. That's 140 of the 167 are non-compliant entering in kindergarten. As far as immunizations, 98.3% compliance. Last year, we were 98.4. There are 29 students that were not compliant. And then number B, we have the employee assistance program, the third quarter report that's in the in your packet. And then on item C, we have some FOIAs. Just one. It's local labs. Its employee time and cost was $46.84. No attorney's fees were needed. Anybody have any questions or comments regarding the informational items? If not, the favorite portion of the meeting, item number 20. Someone care to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I so move.
Okay, Mr. Keys makes a motion to adjourn this meeting. I need a second.
Second.
All right, seconded by Mr.
Sorry.
Graham.
Hey, I was on mute.
I was reading his lips. So seconded by Mr. Graham. We'll need a roll call vote, unfortunately.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Ulot,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. And it looks like it's unanimous. So the meeting's adjourned. And I want to thank everyone for attending, even those who are attending, who are visiting online. Everybody be safe.
Happy
Take care.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Have a
Thanks.
safe Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
Don't eat too much.